Welcome back to Faith, Family, Politics. We're rounding out our Ladies' Month of October. I'm your guest host again, Sarah Metcalf Allen. I remembered this time.
You remembered your own name?
I remembered my name. Not making that mistake again. And anyways, moving on. Thank you for coming and watching. I hope you have enjoyed our Ladies' Month. I know that I have enjoyed being a part of it and watching Crystal and her guests. In fact, we've got a return guest from both of our shows. So excited for that. So make sure you keep watching and liking and commenting and sharing, because the sharing is the caring. Yeah, I do them late because I'm fast. Make sure that you check out all of our other shows like The Agenda with Crystal Rosati and all of our reaction videos. There's some pretty funny ones in there, some good music or some funny TikToks. Give those a look-see. Go look at our website, revolverbroadcasting.com, where you can find all of our shows. You can find the news page where there's some articles up there. And then the shop, which has all kinds of fun stuff that you can totally get for, like, you know, Christmas coming up. Different shirts like the Cat Lives Matter or the Don't Chew on Me. All kinds of fun stuff. Mutts for Trump. Yes. Just all kinds of fun shirts and hats and things. Take a look. Get you some threads, as Josh says, because you need new threads.
That's right.
But for tonight, we have the wonderful Katrina
Simpson.
Sorry, I'm so terrible with names, but I remembered Katrina.
That's okay. Hi. How's
She
everybody?
Back commentating. Thank you so much for being kind of a last minute addition, but I truly appreciate it.
Not a problem. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, we've already been talking quite a bit. It's been great.
Yes, we have.
And then our message tonight is being brought by Claire Reed.
Hello.
And what is the title of our message tonight?
Oh, yes, this is Cheating Death.
Ooh,
Yeah,
perfect for before Halloween.
Yeah, that'd be a good way for that. And then just to round out Ladies' Night here, I am honored to be the speaker today.
Yeah. Would you mind saying a word of prayer for it?
Oh, you want me to pray? Okay, Father God, I thank you so much for this opportunity that I can be here, and I thank you for all the other people here, especially for Sarah and Katrina. And God, I pray for your anointing on this message, God, and that we can reach some fresh people with this story and just show people your glory and your power. And in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All you, Claire.
Oh, we're ready. Okay. All right. Now, Miss Katrina pointed out that I need a verse. So this is Psalm 68, verses 19 and 20. It's, "Blessed be the Lord who daily bears our burden, the God who is our salvation, Selah. God is to us a God of salvation, and to God the Lord belong ways of escape from death."
Yeah, that sounds like perfect to me with your title.
Yeah, I was so excited. I found that. So I have 3 different stories for you about my daddy and ways that he had cheated death. And so Sarah knows the story, but for everyone else, it'll be new. So ask questions as we go. So we'll go in chronological, should we go in chronological order or should we go in like dramatic order?
I think chronological will work.
Okay, because I feel like it goes the opposite way and then it's like anticlimactic at the end.
I mean, it's up to you. You're the one bringing the message.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've always done it in chronological order, so we'll just do it that way. Okay, so when I was a baby, my dad one day was having some trouble breathing, okay? And so my mom was like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? You want to go to the hospital? Like, what? And so finally he decides, yeah, like I need to go to the hospital. And it got worse pretty fast, and so they decided Well, they wanted to take me to the babysitter because I was a baby. They didn't want to take me to the hospital. And then it got kind of worse. And so they ended up calling an ambulance from the babysitter's house. And we lived out in the sticks. So it was a good half an hour to the hospital. So they're going in the hospital. They got their lights and their sirens and everything. And normally I do the siren noise, but I won't do that today with the microphone. And anyway, so my mom is following them in the ambulance, and I'm still over there at the babysitter. And the ambulance turns their lights off.
Oh.
And so my mom was like, okay, like, he died. And so she kind of accepted that and just kept driving to the hospital. And so, okay, Josh, pull up my congestive heart failure definition. So this is what my dad had, called congestive heart failure. And so basically, your body gets this extra fluid, and your heart doesn't know what to do with it. And so it ends up putting it into your lungs, and then you can't breathe, and then eventually you die.
Yeah, my grandpa actually had that, and there's a lot of things that diet changes and exercise and stuff to help with it, but when you don't know you have it.
Well, congestive heart failure can be so different.
How old was your father at the time?
Okay, let me see. He was 45 when I was born, so he would have been just in his 40s then, like late 40s.
Okay.
Like 40, like I don't know how old I was. I was a baby, so like 46, 47.
Okay.
Anyway, okay. So, okay, we'll come back to congestive heart failure about the definitions more. So, okay, so then when my mom's walking into the hospital, she feels, like in the spiritual realm, she feels this black mask coming down over her face. You know how when they're going to put somebody in the electric chair and they cover their face so that you don't see it? It was like that. And she knew that it was this demonic attack, and she knew that if it got down over her face that it would just be done and she wouldn't be able to talk or anything. And so she rebukes that, and it stopped. But before that, she could hear Satan's voice in her ear saying, "I've got your husband. I'm going to get your little girl next." And so she had to rebuke that. We don't let Satan try to do stuff like that. So, very dramatic. So since she walks into the hospital, everybody's kind of looking at her like, what? Because nobody else could see it, So she gets in. She sees my dad, and he's DOA, dead on arrival. So they weren't trying to revive him. Like it was DOA. It's done. And she said he looked like a deer on the side of the road. Just, and there was a female nurse and male doctor, and they were telling her that she couldn't be back there. And so she's like, okay, whatever. So then she's in the waiting room. She's trying to decide who she's going to call first, which family member she's going to call first. And she's just, And the doctor comes out and says, "Are you Robin?" That's my mom's name. And she's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "How does he know my name?" Because we called the ambulance from the babysitter's house. So it's not like they pull it from the address from the phone book or whatever. And this was, 25 years ago. They didn't have the internet and stuff back then. And the doctor says, "The gentleman in there is asking for you." My mom says, "The gentleman in there is dead." Because the nurses were all ladies. And the doctor says, "Well, yes, ma'am. He was dead, but he just sat up and is asking for you."
That was one strong rebuke.
Right. Oh, man, I never thought about it that way. Oh, my gosh, Sarah, you just changed my life. Well, because that was the thing. Like, people really, it wasn't like he collapsed in the middle of church and people were laying hands on him and praying for him and he revived. Like, nobody knew yet. Like, he just was, like, nobody was praying for him. Like, my mom had just accepted that he had died. And, the other part of all this is that my dad had gotten himself into some legal trouble at this time. And so my mom was, trying to grapple with that. And so, I mean, and it's not that she wanted him dead or that she didn't love him anymore or anything like that. But when he died, she was just kind of like, okay, well, that's all done now. Like, we don't have to proceed with any of that. Like, it's just over. So she had accepted that. So, and I did this message at his funeral later. And so that was the thing with congestive heart failure and the parallel with sin is your heart doesn't know what to do with itself. And you get yourself into some sin like that and it just takes over your body and then you end up drowning in it. That's the thing with congestive heart failure is you're literally drowning in your own fluid. And I just feel like that's such a good metaphor for how sin is it just gets in and you're just, before you know it, you're just drowning in it because you don't know how to get it out. Oh, man. But anyway, when you grow up knowing stories of that miraculous power, you do end up being pretty charismatic. We were talking about that earlier. And, oh man, I forget that most people don't grow up with stories like that, or they hear it, but it's, over in Africa or somewhere. It's not their dad. Oh man. So, okay. And this was right around Christmas time when all this was happening. And so after he revived, the doctors did end up lifelining him. And so he did spend a couple days in the hospital. But because of how it fell with Christmas, he had the day off work anyway. And so he never missed a day of work. Died and did not miss a day.
That company loved him.
Well, it was significant because of his legal trouble. He had lost his one job. Mm-hmm. And so he had just started the second one. And so he was on his 90-day probation. And if he would have missed a day, it would have been over. So it was really important that he didn't miss a day.
Yeah, God cares about those details.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he does.
Yes. Okay, so we don't have to get into that stuff. Okay, so then the next one. Okay, do we discuss that enough? I know it's really big. Are we ready to go to the next one?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one.
Okay. All right. The others aren't quite as dramatic as that one. So this one, we kind of had a dry spell of just being normal, just normal everyday miracles, and we didn't have a big one until later. So this was my senior year of high school, and okay,
so about 16, 17 years later.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. And so I was a cheerleader. My dad was a truck driver.
So was mine.
Oh yeah. And so my dad had a dedicated route, and so he would always go back and forth between two factories delivering the parts. And so, and he was a really safe driver. He had gotten the Safe Driver Award like several times at his company. And so this one day, though, there was just this really bad storm, this rainstorm, where the rain was just coming down so hard and you just could not see anything and the wind was blowing and it blew his truck off the road.
That's pretty bad if it's blown a semi off the road.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. Okay, Josh, pull up my picture of the grass and everything. So, okay, for our listeners, I will try to describe it to you, but for our viewers, you can look at it. So the tires of his semi-truck stopped 10 feet before hitting a transformer. And if you know what a transformer is, I don't really understand it very much, but it's not like you hit an electric pole and the power in that neighborhood goes out. It's more than that. Mm-hmm. If you hit a transformer, it's going to explode. The police and stuff that came out to tow the truck out, they said that if you would have hit that, like, there would have been no body to find. Like, it just would have been just obliterated, just gone. But so you can see in the picture, the tire track stopped 10 feet in front of the pole. But then you got to think about how much the hood of the truck sticks out over the tires. So it was just a couple feet from hitting that. And so my mom and I just really took that as, the devil really wanted my dad dead, just really bad. He tried before, and now he's trying again, and God is just showing him again, like, no, like, this is not going to work. I am going to stop you. And so I feel like also in the spiritual realm, storms come up in life, and we do get blown off course. But, we serve a God who is going to stop us in our tracks. We can be out headed for destruction, but he cares about us, and he is going to stop us in our tracks right before we get there. And he's going to help us get back on the path where we're supposed to be.
It's a lot of times when people are caught in traffic, we're sometimes in a big hurry to get to where we got to go there. And, and you hear so many stories of something happened, the light turned red or something, and just a few minutes later, here's this huge crash or whatever, or they get delayed at home, they forgot their wallet, and things, and then all of a sudden, and we were discussing 9/11 earlier.
There's
there
are
stories
like
stories
that.
from
Gosh,
people
yes.
at 9/11 who whatever didn't go to work that day or whatever, was caught on a bus or whatever, and didn't die that day. So God does, he protects you, and sometimes puts barriers in our way, so that way because he has a plan for us. So yes.
Oh, I love that.
Sometimes it's big ditches right in front of a transformer. Sometimes it's, I need to tie my shoe.
Yes. Forgot my wallet or my cell phone or something, or go out and get a flat tire all of a sudden. It's those, we don't think about those things. We look at that as an inconvenience. Oh, I forgot this, or come out and my tire's flat. And then, you get the tire changed or whatever, and then you realize there's this big, huge crash or something, other kind of situation.
Imagine how much happier we would be if we looked at all those things that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think we would be a lot happier in life and a lot less annoyed.
Yeah, because we look at that as an inconvenience, like, I forgot my wallet, or I forgot my phone, or my tire's flat, or something, and sometimes we forget that maybe those inconveniences
are God saving you from destruction,
are blessings in disguise.
Finding your escape from death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the big actual near-death experiences help you actually realize, oh, I'm alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Oh, man. Okay. The last one. This happened in 2018. I was home. I was out of college, out of everything. I was home. I think I was even like hanging out with my dog, and my mom calls me frantic that I have to take my dad to the hospital. That the doctor called because of his congestive heart failure, he always had to have a lot of blood work to like make sure he was doing okay. Well, I don't know if it's because of that. He had a lot of stuff. He was diabetic and just all kinds of stuff. Okay, so he had to have all his regular blood work. And so one of his potassium. So, okay, I don't know if you guys are medical, but the way potassium works, if it's too high, it can be really dangerous. And if it's too low, it can be really dangerous. Now, don't think that if you eat 2 bananas in one day, your potassium's going to be high and you're going to die. Okay, it doesn't work like that. Like normally, your body can filter it out and keep it at the level that it's supposed to be.
And what's funny is that it's a lot of times greens, like collard greens and mustard greens, are actually the worst thing than a banana.
Oh yeah. Well, I know potatoes have a lot too, and I think tomatoes too. Anyway, we don't have to give you a nutrition lesson.
We talk about food a lot on the show, so
yeah.
it wouldn't be a new thing.
Well, but the point is when you're on this different medication that he was on, it does affect the way your body metabolizes and the way it holds water. That was the main thing, was the water. And so potassium can get thrown off. And so that's what had happened. And so my mom was saying that I had to take my dad to the ER. So, okay. And so, I was really annoyed about this. Like, I was having me time, Now I have to go take my dad to the ER. And so I'm knocking on his door, because we lived next door to each other at the time. It was really great. And I'm telling him that, Mom says you have to go to the hospital. And he's like, oh, your mother. She worries too much. I'm fine. And I'm like, okay, well, we have to go. We have to go to ER. And he's explaining to me how the way our insurance is, if you go to ER and it's not an emergency, they will not cover it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, well, this counts. Like, it counts. Like, we have to go. But he was so insistent that he was fine. He drove himself in the car. And I was like, if you have a heart attack while you're driving, then we're both going to die. Like, this is really unwise for you to be driving. And he's just like, oh, it's fine, Claire, it's fine. Oh, fine.
These men.
So we get there, and again, he's explaining this whole, if it's not an emergency thing, he's explaining that to the nurses, and they're like, okay, well, this is an emergency, so it's fine. And... oh, man. So he was in the hospital for 3 days. His potassium just would not go down. It was, I don't know what the problem was. They were giving him all this stuff, and it just wouldn't go down. But anyway, the doctor, he finally kind of got it after it had been a while. And the doctor was explaining to him, no, look, this is serious. Your potassium is this high. You can have sudden cardiac death. Like, it's not where you have a heart attack where it, stops for a second. Like, it's death, where your heart just dies and you just die. And my mom and I were just like, oh, no. Like, this is really serious. And then when it finally got down and we finally got out, the doctor was saying, this really is a miracle that you didn't have any heart trouble this whole time that you were here. And we were just like, wow, that really is a miracle, that God really protected him again. So that was in June, like the end of June when that happened. And then in July, I found out I was pregnant. And so that was very exciting. And so my dad... besides my husband, my dad was one of the first people I told, and he was so excited. And since he lived next door to me, he could really help me, when I was, throwing up and stuff. He would bring me tea, and he was really involved. And then he had to take me to ER when I was pregnant because I couldn't stop throwing up. And so... for the first time in the ER, we got to hear the heartbeat, and it was just so sweet because it wasn't my husband, it wasn't my mom, it was my dad who was with me, and so we're both just bawling, because I was sure that I had killed that baby. I was sure because I was so sick and just so dehydrated. And I'm crying, and I'm like, this is not helping the dehydration. Like, stop. Like, stay in there. Oh, man. But anyway, it was just so sweet to have my dad with me and to hear the heartbeat and everything. So that was in August when we heard the heartbeat. And then in September, he got sick again. And I thought, okay, no problem. My dad has survived all this stuff. This is not going to be a problem. And then he really did die then, for real. And I just couldn't believe it. I was expecting him to sit back up, But my mom really explained that, You know, God had saved him all these times. And so if God wanted to save him this time, he would have. And so this really was his time, you know, and we can have peace about that.
My second husband was a diabetic with congestive heart failure.
Oh, wow.
And ended up getting a VAD, which is a heart pump, up at St. Vincent in February of 2016. And he passed in November of 2016, but he was diagnosed as a diabetic in 2000 or 2001. And so a lot of people don't realize that diabetes can sometimes cause congestive heart failure if it's benign diagnosed, and kidney failure and things like that.
Oh my gosh!
So,
later when I found this paperwork from the day I found out I was pregnant, because he was with me that day too. We both had appointments like at the same time, and I found paperwork from that day saying that he was in kidney failure, and he never told me. He never told me or my mom. Yeah,
diabetes can bring on a host of issues because the sugars and the all those things, it causes the other organs to work extra, and then you've got the excess sugar and those situations. And so when you have diabetes and you don't know you have diabetes, or you don't control your sugars, then it can affect your heart, your lungs, your kidneys.
Our bodies are so
neuropathy,
intricate.
Your eyesight.
A delicate balance to it. That it works perfectly when it works perfectly.
Yes.
But
and
once you throw one thing off.
And that's a lot of times why people who are diabetic, when they get a cut, if their sugars are up, it won't heal properly.
Yeah. See, and that's what happened when he was in the hospital for his potassium. He got a bed sore on his foot, and then that got infected, and then he went septic. And
I had
I mean, you do not mess around with bed sores. Like, you think it's just this little tiny thing on your foot, but
no. No, I know somebody who was hit on a motorcycle who was a diabetic, and in the course of that motorcycle accident, lost part of their foot due to the accident. But later on, due to it not healing properly because they were a diabetic and having some problems with the sugars, they ended up amputating it, and then at the ankle, and then before it was all said and done, it was amputated below the knee. I mean, he has now since passed.
Claire has a huge fear of amputations.
So those are those things, we have to,
my blood going
watch those.
Well,
so congestive heart failure is not.
Happy Halloween, Claire.
My point was, that's how sin is.
Yes.
It enters your life really small.
And it festers.
It's just this really small little thing. It's okay. It's not a big deal. And then before you know it,
it snowballs.
You're all infected, and you're all toxic.
Well, and that's why we are sinful. And so when we allow just that little mustard seed of sin in our life, and we go, oh, it's no big deal. It's just this little thing. And it could be a host of things. It could be what we're listening to on the radio, watching on television.
Oh, yeah.
The type of people we associate with, those different things. So when we allow just a little bit of sin in, it just kind of grows and grows and festers and gets infected and, has that hold on us, that retention.
That's what happened to him. I mean, it was so infected, and he didn't know. He couldn't feel it. And then just one day.
It's probably because he had neuropathy, I bet you.
And then one day it was like, oh, I can't walk. I can't walk. Claire, come help me.
Yep.
And, and just on the spiritual realm, I mean, I don't want to see that happen to my friends.
Now, during this time, was your father going to church? Was he saved at all? Or?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
He really struggled with it for a long time. I remember. I think in between the last two stories, so your senior year of high school, and I think that's when he actually finally accepted. God can forgive me.
Yeah, he really struggled with guilt from the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get into that, but he really struggled with guilt.
Well, we all do because we fail to realize.
Yeah, well, and it caused me to struggle with guilt. I still struggle with guilt now, and
we all do because we fail to we talked about this on one of the other episodes that I was on. We have to learn to forgive ourselves first.
Yeah.
And when we understand that everything is forgiven by God and that Jesus died for us, that all of our sins, past, present, even the ones we will commit in the future, are forgiven, we need to understand that forgiveness is that grace and that unconditional love by our Savior.
Right.
And because He can give us that forgiveness, then we should have it in with ourselves to forgive ourselves. And it's hard for us to forgive ourselves because we know deep down, you know, we know what we've done. Some people go, oh, yeah, I know what you've done. But really, they only see a tip of the stuff. Our Creator sees all of it. He knows those filing cabinets that we think that are locked up and that nobody can see. He sees those. So, but we have to, because we are sinful and because of our nature, we have to learn to forgive ourselves, and that's hard.
Yeah,
you know. You know, and there's
Yeah. Well, and I think when he saw,
but I'm glad he was saved. You know, because you know, because you will be able to see him again.
Right. I know. Oh,
you know,
that was the only thing that got me through the grief of him dying, was just knowing that I could see him again way later. But man, I mean, people that don't know that, I don't know how they get through.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, my children will be able to see their dad again, and that's it's not that I didn't. Situations were, you know, between us, but you know, it's nice to know that those family members and friends that have gone before us that have been saved, they are not gone.
Yeah.
They're just waiting on us to get home.
Yeah, that's
because
sweet.
this isn't home.
Right.
I mean, we think of it at home, but this isn't home. So they're at home, waiting on us.
Right. Yep.
You know, so you get.
That's a good way to look at it.
You know, my daddy's been gone since 1992.
Oh, it's before I was born.
And he died 4 months to my daughter was my youngest daughter was 4 months old to the day.
Oh,
and
gosh.
So
how did that work? Grieving with a baby, because when my dad died, I was right at like 13 weeks pregnant.
Okay.
And I was just devastated. Hold on. I was just devastated that he wouldn't get to meet my baby. I was just devastated. But then later, I kind of realized, you know, when he died and I was just moping around grieving for months, I could do that. You know, if he would have lived long enough to meet her and then died when I had a newborn to take care of, I wouldn't be able to take care of her. I would just be
So my father fought cancer for a couple years, and he had fought stomach and esophagus cancer and had lost 2/3 of his stomach and right above where your flap is. And so they had to go in and take things out and reconnect and everything. And so my father couldn't sleep anymore lying down because of the stomach acids, and he'd have to go in and have his throat dilated. So so in May or June, somewhere in there of 1992, I took my father to the doctor. He wasn't feeling good. He'd had labs drawn, and I was pregnant with my daughter, and I'd had some issues during my pregnancy, had been in and out of the hospital, and was with my dad when they told him that he had 6 months to live. And being pregnant, it felt like I got kicked in the gut. I literally remember the room spinning, even though it wasn't really spinning. All of a sudden, it just started spinning. Yeah. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I couldn't breathe. This knot was here, and then I was like, somebody just kicked me in the gut, and it was hard. I had to take my dad home, and, we didn't talk. What do you say?
Right.
And so I went home, and my son was not quite 3, and, I'm looking at my son, and I'm like, my dad's going to miss so much.
Yeah.
So when my daughter was born, I have some of the last pictures that were ever taken of my dad.
Oh, good.
Holding my daughter. And, but it was hard because she was 4 months old, and I had complications with my delivery. So I was under a lot of doctor's care and post delivery surgeries, and then surgeries after that, due to those delivery issues and stuff. And it's hard to mourn when you have a newborn. It is, because but at the same time, your focus is on your children. So, I was able to take care of my children, but at the same time, those things, my dad was going to miss being a grandpa. Yeah. My kids weren't going to have a grandpa. And, but over time, you just learn to live with it. But I know, so I have a little Bible, one of those little pocket Bibles that was my dad's when my dad was baptized. I don't know how I got it, but somehow I think my mom gave it to me. My parents were divorced, but I think my mom had it or something. I don't know, but it's now in my possession. And so when I read that my dad was baptized, and I know he had talked to somebody before his death and stuff, what's brought me peace now, being so many years later, almost 32 years, is knowing that my dad is home. Yeah. Because he was saved. He believed that Jesus was the God in man form, and that he died on the cross for us. Yeah. Knowing that my dad was saved, knowing that my dad was baptized, and knowing some things, I know my dad is at home. Right. And he's just waiting for me. He's with his mother. He's with his grandparents. And so I find that comforting, knowing that he was saved and stuff. And that's why I look at things now, and we were discussing this earlier. People wake up and go, oh, thank God I woke up. And I'm thinking, no, I'm ready to go home. I'm ready. I'm ready for the party in the sky. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
It can be dangerous to think like that too much, but
but that's how that's as you get older. I just turned 56, so I'm on that downhill now, as people call it. I'm looking at more as I'm going uphill because I'm going up.
Yeah, there you go.
But I'm I look at it more as I'm going home. Yeah. So if I don't wake up tomorrow, don't cry for me, because I'm home.
Right.
Right. And that's how I deal with things now. I look at it as, it's a sad situation because we've lost a loved one, but if your loved one is saved, and if you're saved, they're home.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Mourning can take so many different forms, and I like the description of it. The griefs of mourning, or stages of mourning. It's
stages.
Those come at any time, in any order.
Well, there are.
I learned all about the stages.
There are stages, but some people don't understand that some people are able to put things in more of a compartment, and able to deal with things in certain steps than other people. Some people have a hard time dealing with death. I used to be scared of death. Yeah, I was. It scared me. I had anxiety of it. I was scared of it. I didn't want to leave my children. I didn't want to do this. I was scared. And I would not be able to sleep because I was afraid that I was going to die in my sleep.
Oh, no,
And so I had a lot of anxiety. But as time grew on and I got more involved in church activities and I started reading my Bible more and doing things, those, and believe it or not, I read Revelations, it put me more at ease.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of it. Not that I want to die. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I'm going to a better place.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I've been in a place where it was, yep, I want to go home, but it was because I was in a bad place mentally here.
Yeah, see, that's dangerous.
That's when it's dangerous. That it's like, you know, I was on the praise team at my church for many years, and I'd go and sing on stage, you know, leading other people in worship or whatever, and on the drive home I'd be like, hey God, I'm ready to go home, please have a car crash into me. Like
Yeah.
you know, a friend of mine in high school said it's the Christian suicide where you would never take your own life, but you ask God to take it for you.
Well, I've actually, as like have had suicidal tendencies, but thank God I was able to communicate.
Yeah.
And those were during I was having some issues, and I you know, you were talking. Your mom had said, you know, this black veil coming over her, and I believe that suicide is
talking about that part.
You know, that's the devil.
Yes. So I've really had that on my life now. You know, I mean, I've never had that like close call experience like that, but I just feel like, you know, he tried to get my dad, that didn't work. Now he's trying to get me, trying to get my children. You know, and because I didn't want to have another kid. You know, I had my one baby, my dad died. I didn't want to have another baby and him not be a part of it at all. Because with my daughter now, I can tell her the story that he heard the heartbeat and that he was so involved for that first 13 weeks. So I didn't want to have another baby after that, you know. And I was at this women's conference last year, and it just hit me so hard that I was letting the devil win. He wanted me, and he wanted to prevent my next kid from being born, because that kid is going to do so much damage to the kingdom of darkness, and he was trying everything he could to prevent that. And I had to repent of that, you know. And so, oh man, I mean, that to me was probably the most personal experience I had with God, when he was really showing me that I needed to repent of that. So now I would not like force that on anyone else. You know, if anyone else wants to have one kid and be done, you know, that is fine, you know.
Right here.
but for me, I mean, I can't prevent the will of God. You know, I have to let it happen. So if you hear later on that I'm pregnant, just know that is the will of God, okay, people?
Oh my goodness, so much talk, and it's been really good. And death
I did not cry nearly as much as I would.
But you know, when we sometimes escaping death, sometimes that is death is our call home, though.
Right.
See, and that's
and that's the thing. You know, that's the thing. It's like we can escape it, but soon it is our call home, and only God knows when that time is going to come.
That's the point. Is that God is in charge.
God is in control
what was that
all
verse
the time.
again? I want to hear that verse again.
Okay. Well, so I just want to say, you know, there will be a time when death will lose its sting, and it will have to bow to God. Okay, so Psalm 68. well, I'll just use 20. God is to us a God of salvation, and to God the Lord belong ways of escape from death.
Yeah.
That's New American Standard.
And that's the escape of death.
Yeah.
It's Jesus was our escape from eternal and spending it in hell.
Right.
Eternity in hell. And that is the ultimate death.
Yeah.
Is spending that in hell.
Yeah.
And so, Jesus, is our Savior. And so he saved us from the depths of hell. And I look at that as the ultimate death. Is
Something a little lighter. Because it's good to talk about these deep things. You've got to have those conversations sometimes, but don't want to get stuck in it.
Okay, that's fine. We can
So,
be done with the deep.
It still has to do with death, though.
Oh, okay.
But our history teacher in school,
Mr. Ellis.
Yeah, Mr. Ellis, we in class just was talking about the verse, it is appointed unto man once to die. And so it's like, well, if you have to die,
that wasn't true for my daddy.
then what would be your preferred way to die? Like if you could choose how you were going to die and it not be suicide, but you got to choose, what would you choose? You hear things, I want to go fast, so a car wreck, that's really, like that what happened with my brother, like
something where you don't have to suffer for
right,
sure.
or in my sleep, but Mr. Ellis was like, well, my one way, appointed to die would be the rapture. I'm like, that's not dying. That's Jesus
cheating.
Coming, and he
cheating,
said, no,
Dad.
the verse says that it's appointed unto man once to die. So if that verse is true, then the rapture counts. Mm-hmm. I was like,
But even the dead
technical.
go up. Even the dead go up, though. So I don't think it counts. I disagree.
I didn't like his answer either.
More.
I
didn't bring my Bible with me, so.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. And then the conversation. Okay, so what would be your worst way to die?
Oh, gosh.
Then I
don't want to talk about that.
Oh, I love fire. I will sit there and stare at it, play with it. But that is probably my worst fear, is to die that way. I love it to look at it and play with it or whatever, but I'd be terrified to die.
I think one of the worst
fire.
ways to die from because I'm really big into watching real crime shows and murder shows.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
So drowning is one of the ultimate, they say, worst deaths.
And they do say it is one of the worst.
You
Yeah,
know,
but it's very painful.
So, and there's a
Which
lot.
I didn't know it was painful until I watched things like that.
Well,
So that they say that's one of the most horrible ways to die is drowning.
Gosh.
Because when you die in a fire, normally, and anybody that's a fireman will be able to correct me, or ambulance people, smoke inhalation usually will take over. So you are then consumed by the fire.
At least pass out from that first, and you're not feeling
So,
the
but
fire.
drowning is not, that doesn't happen. And so, so I think
when I did my original PowerPoint presentation for this story with my dad, so with the congestive heart failure, that's, you're drowning in your own fluid, and then if he would have hit the transformer, he would have, been blown up. And so my dad and we really like to watch the Ice Age movies. And so there's a scene.
I don't know if I think I've only seen one.
Oh, we love them. We like comedy. And so there's a scene where one of the Sid says, drowning sounds so peaceful. Getting blown to bits seems so sudden.
That's a little too relatable there.
Well, that's why I had it in my original thing, but I didn't think we could play a video on here, so I didn't.
Okay.
Nah, it's fine. We talked about it.
Yeah. Okay. This podcast is not sponsored by the Ice Age franchise. I can't say that. Franchise. Ice Age franchise.
Words are hard.
Well, they're so similar.
I can't. Okay. I don't know. What are we looking at on time? Oh, okay. We got plenty of time. All right.
Well, I mean, we can talk about family stuff.
Yeah,
and like
that's,
what,
I mean, we're
like
that's,
what
we're kind of in it.
like what you've learned from your dad. If you want to stay with the dad
Oh, goodness.
Fine.
Well,
I mean, we don't have to do that.
no, it's okay. Sticking with the theme of death.
Or that would probably be better.
It doesn't matter. I just is what's on my brain because that's what we're talking about, and we've talked about so many different aspects of it. And you talked about how your dad escaped death, but then we also talked about that death is our call. And I mentioned it just a minute ago, but like my brother died in a car crash. He was not old. It was his 21st birthday. We called him on the phone and sang happy birthday to him over the phone. And
Died
then
on his birthday?
which is also my mom's birthday.
Oh, that's so terrible. Because my dad died on my birthday.
Yeah.
Man.
Birthdays are hard in my family.
I mean,
sometimes.
I guess in a way it's nice that you only have one anniversary to remember. Well,
there's that.
Well, no, I mean because my mom and I like this past year for my dad's birthday, my mom called me like right at midnight, like right after midnight, and I was like, hello, like what, like are you okay? And she was just like, it's your dad's birthday, and I was like, yeah, are you okay? And she's like, I'm just thinking about him. And I'm like, okay, Mom, like it's okay. But like we got sad. We're thinking about him for his birthday, and then we were getting sad thinking about him on his death day. And so it's like 2 times that we were being sad, And so for that, you can just be sad the one time.
I guess in a way, in a sense, but then you start getting those waves of grief, and it just doesn't even matter. I was
I know
13, and he was so young. You don't think of it consciously, but when you're that young, you think you're invincible. That nothing's gonna hurt you, nothing's gonna happen.
I know people that are in their 50s who think nothing's gonna happen to them, and it's like,
right.
Okay,
right.
Get
So
a
that
grip.
was a real wake up call for 13-year-old me, but it still didn't really hit me because he had been in the military, so he had gone off to basic training and his AI training and stuff. So he had been gone for weeks, months at a time, but then he had come back. So it was one day in school, and it was a car accident, but there was no drunk driver or anything. It was just a car accident. But my teacher was hounding on drunk driving and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but you don't have to be drunk to drive. Like, you don't always die because of drunk drivers. Sometimes car accidents just happen. And that set me off. And that was when I fully realized, oh my gosh, my brother's never coming back.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
we are not 100% certain if he was saved or not. And so that is hard, and I struggle with that sometimes. I want to believe that he was, because when he was young, he made a profession. He was baptized. He was a good guy, but he didn't live as a Christian, definitely, especially the older that he got. He would have said that he went through a Buddhist phase, and then he was agnostic a lot, and started kind of getting into maybe some of the more elementalist Wiccan kind of stuff there at the end. So it's like,
did he go through like a discipleship in order to be baptized?
He was young when he was baptized. He made a profession young, was baptized young. So, he grew up at the same church that I did, and he didn't go to the same school, but same parents. And
I think though, and I don't know this to be fact, but I think God knows that some people will look at other lifestyles and other religions just to question and to see. It's always, I don't want to say it's always good to learn about those things, but at the same time it is, because that gives us perspective, and it teaches us what to not do and what to look at. Some people go, oh yeah, this is the great thing, Wiccan or whatever, and they jump right in and they stay there. Other people look at it and they want to learn more about it, and so they kind of, they may be learning about it. And like you said, though, you know, but he did make a profession of faith.
Yeah.
I don't believe you can lose your faith.
Yeah, I don't think you can lose your salvation. And that's what I hold on to.
So, yes.
And so, like, when you said it's their call to home, that's kind of how I've thought of it.
Yes.
God called him home because the path he was walking on was not a safe path.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's like, I'm just going to take you away from that now and just take you home.
And you know, we hear people say, you know, their time was, that what they came to do was done. That whatever God wanted them to do was, you know.
That's so hard. You hear that a lot especially when like babies or children die. You know,
they're
so young.
I had a child die that was 24 hours old, you know, but
I can't imagine.
You know, I look at it as, you know, whatever that child was here for, because at first she was pronounced dead, and then I was told with this, you know, we're not going to be able to get tubes down. We're not going to be able to do this. And then they got the tubes down, and then this. But whatever her mission was, it was finished in a very short period of time, you know, and that's how I look at that, you know. So God, you know, called her home, you know, for whatever reason she passed.
How many weeks pregnant were you?
I was 22 weeks into my pregnancy.
That's right at viability.
Yep. So she was due on Christmas Day in 1985 and was born August 17th of 1985 and died August 18th of 1985.
85.
So
that was almost 40 years ago.
38.
Yeah.
Or she would be 38 next year if she was still living. So she'd be 37 this year. Or would have been.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I look at, you know, I mean, for finding a purpose for her, you know, just to show the humanity of the preborn, you know. I mean, you look at a baby like that and there's no way someone could believe that's a clump of cells.
Well, and because, I mean, she had fingers, she had toes. Right. Starting to grow eyelashes and eyebrows. I mean, I have pictures and everything. Yeah. And so, you know, there are people though, 15 ounces, 9 3/4 inches long. At 22 weeks, there were people aborting their children at that size.
I know.
And she was a baby, you know.
Right.
She cried, she moved, she kicked, you know, and when she was in the incubator, I would go in there and even though it was that short period of time, you know, you're in there talking and she recognized my voice and stuff, because when I was there with her,
so sweet.
Talking to her heartbeat would even out and things and stuff, because I pretty much stayed in the ICU there. So
there is value in life, in all life,
there is.
Especially human life. God created us specially.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he spoke and things happened, but he formed us and he breathed his breath, you know, into Adam and gave him a living soul.
Right.
Yes.
Like, and we are those descendants, and that we have value just because of that. We have a purpose just because of that. You know, here in counseling, put your hand over your heart. Do you feel that beating? That means you have a purpose.
But, you know, the topic is, you know, escaping death, but eventually none of us escape death.
Well,
you know, there is none of us, regardless of what some people think, none of us will escape it. We will have those instances like your father did where it didn't happen, but ultimately none of us will escape it. And so the ultimate goal for us as Christians is to witness to others about God's saving grace, and that we can all be forgiven, and that we can all not spend a eternity of death in hell, but have everlasting life with our Creator and having the party in the sky.
Yeah, we succumb to death, but it doesn't beat us.
No.
Because Jesus was the ultimate cheater of death, if you want to call it that. Like,
there you go.
Yep.
And he died, and he was dead. But he didn't stay that way.
No. No.
And that's just awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so this has been so much fun. Now let's go into some fun political stuff.
Woohoo! One of my favorite topics, politics.
All right, let's see if I can get this unlocked. Got it.
You're awful quiet over there.
Well, Okay.
He's just gonna wave.
Josh is running man of the station. It's good. Okay, let's see. Let's talk. We'll continue with the death. No, kind of. So this is a posting, I guess, from the U.S. Department of Defense. That it is still engaged in hurricane response recovery efforts.
Oh, I don't think you sent me that. You only sent me 2.
I could have sworn I sent it to you, but okay. Well, here you go.
I wondered why it was only 2.
My bad. Here you go. So, Pentagon Press Secretary Air Force Major General Pat Ryder, who briefed the news media today, said the National Guard has more than 1,100 troops and over 100 high-water vehicles and helicopters from 3 states mobilized for the response and recovery mission following Hurricane Milton. And there's these pictures. It's just, if you look, it's so devastating. It's crazy. Anywhere that you look at that stuff. Anyways, additionally, there are about 270 people working 9 Army Corps of Engineers mission assignments, including temporary roof support, infrastructure assessment, debris control, flood response, and more, he said. In response to Hurricane Helene, about 2,000 National Guard troops from 9 states have been mobilized, along with 65 high-water vehicles and 8 helicopters. Also, in response to Hurricane Helene, more than 450 USACE personnel are engaged in 33 missions across the region, supporting debris control, temporary power, infrastructure assessment, flood control, and safe waterways assessments, he said. The Defense Department continues to be engaged with interagency partners in support of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the White House, state, and local governments, Ryder said. Since early this month, active duty service members in support of local, state, and national partners have completed more than 100 ground missions and 70 air missions, delivering more than 270 tons of humanitarian aid over land and nearly another 200 tons by air. Additionally, these service members cleared hundreds of miles of roads, increasing access to some of the hardest hit areas in North Carolina. In the coming days, active duty service members will begin transitioning out of the area as a longer-term recovery phase begins. This transition will be a gradual phase process, carefully coordinated among state and local officials, U.S. Northern Command, the dual status active guard commander, FEMA, and the federal coordinating officer. It's hard when a disaster like this hits, and it's so devastating. It's like, well, yeah, we're sending aid, we want to help. And for those people, it's, life-changing. It's going to be years probably before they're normal. But, if I went to go help, how long can I actually stay there and help? Yeah. It's hard to judge that. And I'm glad that we have people there and that there are still people doing it. I mean, I just heard a thing on the radio, I think it was yesterday, which was supporting Convoy of Hope. I know people are still donating to places like the Salvation Army, who they've got canteens and stuff down there too. So it's good to hear that there are still people helping, because it definitely is still needed. We hear about it and then it passes, and then, it's done, because we're not living it. Yeah. But it is important to, that's why I wanted to do this again. I know we talked about it last time I was on here, but they're still dealing with it. And it's good that our military is helping as well. Could they be helping more or less? How active are they with the whole FEMA thing and other organizations?
Well, I find it interesting that the Department of Defense, which is a federal agency, supported by tax dollars, is supporting other federal agencies like FEMA that are supported from taxpayer dollars, and that they are going to slowly pull out. I just hope that they can do it better than they did in Afghanistan when they pulled out of Afghanistan.
Oh, gosh.
Because whenever the federal government's involved, there's a ton of red tape, always.
Yeah.
Nothing is simple, because you have to jump through hoop after hoop after hoop. And most of those people in North Carolina and in Florida and in Tennessee, most of the help is coming from Samaritan's Purse, your Convoy of Help, the local churches, and the friends and neighbors of these communities.
Yeah.
Because our government comes in, they take over an area, they confiscate the supplies that were sent there, and then they dole them out as they go. Whereas Samaritan's Purse, these helicopters, these other truck drivers, the convoys from Kentucky, the convoys from West Virginia, and these other states that are bringing in the feed for the horses, the livestock that's still living, the dog food, the cat food, and all the other supplies that are sent by everyday people, you know, the government comes in and they go, okay, we're going to do this. Mm-hmm. How long did it take the government to get there, though? Days. It was actually close to a week. Samaritan's Purse and other churches, they were there within hours. And people go, why didn't they get out? No, they did not know that it was coming. Because Hurricane Helene was supposed to have been a hurricane. What Tennessee and North Carolina and these other states that were these mudslides where thousands of people are still missing.
Yeah.
This was an astronomical, unprecedented rainfall that they did not expect to happen. Those people did not have notification because they were not expecting a huge amount of downpouring of rain, and so they were not able to get out.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last time.
Whole
family.
In Florida, you know, they get noticed, you got a hurricane coming, you know, evacuate. Yeah. You know, when you don't know that so many inches of rain are just all of a sudden going to downpour, when they don't predict, you know, they predict, a couple inches, no big deal.
Right. You're like how it was here. It was storming up here.
Yeah. You know, we had, I have huge trees in my yard. We had 2 piles as tall as this chair and about the length of a couch of piles of limbs just out of our trees.
Yeah. My neighbor's yard got hit pretty bad.
You know,
we were fine.
And that was just a tail end of rain. You know, and we knew we were going to get some wind, but Tennessee and North Carolina stuff, they didn't know they were going to get that much rain. They predicted a couple inches of rain, and look at what they got. They were like, oh, the river's going to rise. It rises before it normally goes, you know, a couple, you know, feet, you know, maybe 10 feet. It rose 30, 40 feet. It pulled out bridges.
Oh, my gosh.
You know.
Yeah, I knew some bridges were down.
I watched a video where 2 shipping containers literally took out a bridge. The first one come down the river, it hit the bridge, it was stuck, and then here came the second one, rushing water, it takes it hits the first one, and then there goes the bridge.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know,
but not 2.
You know, next thing you know, here's houses coming by, you know, parts of houses. Yeah. You know, they didn't know. They couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't get out. You know,
it's good to know that there are people who are ready at the drop of a hat.
Well, Samaritan's Purse, their headquarters are right there. You know, Billy Graham's, you know, right there in North Carolina, where their area is. So they're right there on the ground, and they have churches that have semi trucks ready to roll out, in case of emergency.
Yeah, there was.
So Samaritan's Purse is right there, boom, and then you have Convoy of Hope, and you have all these others. Yeah. Most of your stuff is coming from churches and other nonprofits.
Bridge the Gap out of Cincinnati, one of the pastors took his own personal helicopter.
Yeah,
over there.
There's a couple people here from Indiana. One of them is some kind of legislator, and there's a young lady who have helicopters, and they were picking up supplies here and flying them down. You know,
yeah.
So
see, it's interesting. I was just kind of looking at the rest of this little article thing. And
what gets me on that article is that this Ash guy or whatever his name is, where is he at? When you read down. No, he's in Ukraine.
Well, yeah, he's not there yet. But the guy talking is in the Pentagon. Like, he don't know what's happened. Yeah. Well, and that's what I was about to say, is it starts talking about this, you know, in the coming days, they're going to be transitioning out, longer-term recovery. We're so proud of everything that's been happening. But then it literally goes, in other news, Ryder noted on October 18th, U.S. Strategic Command announced the commencement of its annual nuclear command and control exercise. Because we're in an article about hurricane relief, and we're going to talk about nuclear command. All of a sudden,
yeah. It was really weird. When I read that, I was like, wait a minute, we're talking about hurricane relief, and all of a sudden you're talking about nuclear training?
Yeah.
So you're going to pull people out of helping people so you can train for a nuclear war or nuclear situation.
Right.
And then he notes, go on, I'm sorry.
It's the purpose of the exercise is to enhance nuclear readiness and ensure a safe, secure, and effective strategic deterrent force.
Well, I'm really glad we'll be ready for a nuke. That's really
but
good.
we can't be ready for a hurricane or a tornado or, you know.
I mean, I can't lie when I say we probably do need to be ready for a nuke too, but
trust me, if it happens, we won't be worried about it because no one's going to be here. So,
Well,
you know.
I mean, in that area, I guess. But.
One thing they could do if this land is all devastated,
Yeah.
they get everyone evacuated. That can just be their nuke testing.
Oh, no, you don't want the government to come in and take the land.
Oh, man, that's true. Yeah, they will not give it back.
Devastated anyway. That's just, But now, do you think it would be better if the state government was taken over instead of the federal? Would that
Yes.
be better? Because that would lead us into our next article.
Well, no, she's got to finish because what's his name? Because the guy.
He's like back in Austin from being in Ukraine, and it's like
he's in Ukraine visiting Ukraine. Then he's going to go to Rome to visit the Pope.
I saw
so we have this national disaster here.
I saw this meme, you guys. I saw this meme. It was like a map of the United States, like with each state, labeled with its name.
And then one says Ukraine.
And then for the one, it said Ukraine, and it said, maybe this way we can get some help.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I thought, man, I'm not against helping Ukraine. I mean, I think we should help when we can, anyone that we can. But,
yeah. When
you got to help your own first.
Yeah, that's the when we can part is where we're kind of falling apart a little bit. But boy, you've made a great segue there. If a state,
I've been planning it for a long time. I was trying to get her to get a.
Hey, no, we got it. It's
She's
good.
like, I need her to calm down over here so I can get in.
Yeah, but talking about state control versus federal control, Florida sues DOJ over Trump assassination probe. So Florida filed suit against the Department of Justice for blocking the state's investigation into an assassination attempt against Donald Trump at the former president's golf course in West Palm Beach. State Attorney General Ashley Moody filed a complaint in a Florida federal court against U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, the Bloomberg Law reported Wednesday. Moody asked the court to stop the federal government from preventing Florida's investigation into alleged would-be assassin Ryan Ruth, while the DOJ also probes the incident. Ruth, 58, was charged with attempted assassination of a political candidate as prosecutors alleged he intended to kill the former president on September 15th. The accused man also faces 2 gun-related charges after authorities said he pointed a rifle through a fence at Trump's golf club while the Republican presidential candidate was golfing. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis issued an executive order on September 17th for state law enforcement agencies to investigate and prosecute the alleged would-be assassin. However, according to the complaint, DOJ officials have told Florida it can't interview witnesses and can only cooperate with the federal probe. The DOJ and FBI say federal law 18 U.S.C. 351 requires a state to suspend its jurisdiction over the assassination of a presidential candidate when the federal government asserts jurisdiction over such a case. There's a lot of asserting and jurisdiction.
But go on.
Because 351 does not prohibit such conduct, and because it would violate the 10th Amendment if it reached so far, Florida sues to vindicate its sovereign interest to investigate violations of state law, the complaint says. In an 18-page complaint, Moody said that when the state investigation launched, federal prosecutors had not charged Ruth with attempted assassination. At the time, he was charged with illegal gun possession charges. After the DOJ filed superseding attempted assassination charges, U.S. Attorney Mackenzie LaPointe sent a letter to Moody again, asking the state to back down until the federal prosecution has ended, Politico reported. Moody argues in the complaint that the law doesn't prevent state officials from investigating such crimes and that it's a violation of the 10th Amendment, which prohibits the federal government from taking a state's power. If the state waits to investigate, then, quote, evidence disappears, memories fade, and Florida has no way to force the federal government to cooperate in the state's prosecution, Moody wrote. Politico is reporting that. Every day that Florida is prevented from investigating the state's case becomes harder to prove a trial.
Mm-hmm.
It is a disaster.
That is right. It's a disaster.
Okay, so I guess I don't get it. Is I thought anytime, like, something would happen in one state and then, like, something happened in the other state and then the FBI would come in and take over.
No.
I thought that was pretty normal that the federal thing would take over.
Well, that might be what people, and I can understand why you would think that, because that was kind of my understanding as well.
It happened on TV, like, all the time.
Right, that's how it's portrayed.
Like, with mentalists, like, the county sheriff would always want to be in charge, and then they'd be like, well, we're
But see,
for the
that's
whole
the thing.
state.
That's how it's portrayed.
And they would
That's
always
how it's portrayed.
kinda fight.
The only time the FBI gets involved is certain laws. There are certain things that have to happen when it comes to crimes for the Federal Bureau of Investigations to be involved in.
Is it the FBI or is it like the Secret Service that's trying to?
It's the FBI and
So the
Department of
Secret
Justice.
Service provides the protection to the candidates and to the president and vice president. So that's Secret Service. And they're supposed to, like, make sure nothing happens. And we already know that now this is twice. And then the FBI is investigating the criminal actions. And so why Florida is going, whoa, wait a minute, is because, like she said, they've only charged him with having the possession of an illegal gun.
Yeah.
And it's a crime to try to kill somebody, and it's a crime to try to kill a candidate running for president. And since the FBI hadn't charged this gentleman with anything but illegal possession of a gun, the DeSantis is going, you know what? Since you're going to lag, we're going to pick up the slack. And we're gonna investigate, and we can charge him at the state level since you're not doing your job. And now the federal government's going, or the FBI, whoever you want to call it, is going, well, no, you can't do that because we're the FBI and we need you to stand down. And the state of Florida's going, no, we're sovereign.
Yeah.
You know, and
now the state being sovereign, that is important.
Well, and see, that's kind of like the abortion thing. Mm-hmm. So, like when Roe versus Wade was overturned, and it just, you know, the Supreme Court said, you know what, we're not going to do this at the federal level. We're going to give each state the ability to do their own laws, and that's pretty much how this is the same. It's not the identical situation, but when it comes to legalities, it is, because that's when the state of Florida is going, you know what, we have the right to investigate. We have the right to talk to witnesses and gather information and to file charges.
Yeah.
And the FBI is going, no, you don't. And they're going, yes, we do. So that's why this 18-page
the
summary.
Sovereignty is important. So I'm Osage Indian, and I'm a member of the Osage Nation, and they have a whole thing that they are a sovereign nation, and you know the federal government can't come in and control what they do. And I mean they still are very like cooperative and cordial and everything, but they have a whole declaration that you know we are sovereign. So yeah, the federal.
So Claire's a dual citizen.
I'm not sure if it counts. I've always wondered.
But yeah,
we'll say it counts,
but that's
at least
so
today.
that's what that is. You know, the state of Florida is telling the FBI, you know what, you're not going to do your job, so we're going to do it for you, and we're going to prosecute on our level, and and if the evidence is there, and we can gather the evidence, excuse me, we're going to file charges and prosecute him, since you're going to sit around and twiddle your fingers and your toes and
Right,
decide
because he's
what you're
exactly
do.
right. You know, when you take too long, then
Yeah.
you know, memory fades and evidence disappears, and watch out for that. For political reasons, people might try to make that stuff happen anyways.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're okay. I've been clearing my throat all night.
Well, so the first assassination attempt where it got his ear, I feel like that one like was really big. Like I watched that multiple times, you know, but this one I didn't really hear much about. It was just like, oh yeah, there was another attempt.
Yeah,
that's basically all I heard.
I mean, he was out playing golf, and
And I was like, what happened? And I just
Somebody,
haven't really
one
seen
of the
anything
Secret
about
Service kind of went ahead and was kind of like in the area on a golf cart or something and noticed the barrel of the rifle or something sticking through the fence. And, you know, yeah. And, you know, they were, you know, and wasn't the local law enforcement the one that arrested him or something? Okay, that's what I thought. It's like I'm old,
so just another reason that it should be a state thing because locals ones who found him.
But to me, it's like okay, the Secret Service. You're supposed to, protect this person. That's running for president, and if it was Biden or whoever, you're supposed to secure the area. And now this is the second time. So it's like, Okay.
And as like you said, I didn't really hear much about this one either. Just like, he was almost assassinated again. Oh, how? What happened? Like, and again, that media and stuff doesn't want to cover it because after that first attempt, it got so much coverage and his support rose. Like, they can't be doing that. They can't be doing that. His support is growing so much, and his opponent Kamala gets all twisted up in her words and things.
Toss salad,
yeah, and things just the other one where she's a chameleon, so whatever she needs to be at that moment, and so our next article is an opinion article. Mm-hmm. Why Trump at McDonald's matters.
So I read the title, and I was like, oh, okay, good. They're going to explain it. And then it really didn't explain it that much.
Oh, I thought it explained it.
It explained, like, what he was doing, but it didn't really explain why it matters. Like,
I guess once we get into it, maybe we'll get there.
Maybe she'll educate me.
So this week, Donald Trump set the political world afire with an appearance at a McDonald's in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Wait, can I tell the story?
Go for it.
So I do home health, and I work with, primarily elderly people. And I have this one lady who's kind of confused sometimes. And so she told me the other day that she saw Trump at McDonald's making burgers on TV. And I thought she was crazy. I thought she was, seeing stuff or something. I was just like, okay, sure. Like, okay. Like, I really don't think that happened. and then when we were preparing for this, Sarah sends me the article about him being there. And I was like, oh, my lady's not crazy after all.
Yes, he really did it. He really worked at McDonald's for like however long it was. Oh my gosh.
I think he was there a little longer than 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh. But while he was there, he donned the famous McDonald's apron, cooked up some fries, and served customers at a drive-thru window. All the while, he looked like he was enjoying himself thoroughly, which he certainly was. Trump has the momentum, and he knows it. But it's more than that. Whatever Trump's other failings, at his root, Trump likes people. And not just people of his class or who share his background. He likes dealing with human beings. 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity, this is Ben Shapiro, the one who wrote the article, to commemorate October 7th with Trump, where he met with the family of an American hostage held by Hamas in Gaza. Trump connected with them on an emotional level. Whether it's Jewish Americans from New Jersey dealing with the horror and tragedy of having their son held by the world's most vicious terror group, or Pennsylvania voters who just want to meet Trump and pick up a Happy Meal, Trump is comfortable with his fellow Americans because he's unapologetically what he is. That's simply not true of Kamala Harris, which is why I brought up the whole chameleon thing.
Yeah, I think he said that with .1.
Yeah. Off script, Harris remains a disaster. Her 60 Minutes interview with Bill Whitaker is filled with word slaw, spin, and platitudinous drivel. Her Fox News interview with Bret Baier flew completely off the rails, with Harris unable to defend even the most basic decisions by the Biden administration. The Biden administration made decisions? She is apparently now taking time off the campaign trail to prepare for an NBC News interview as well as a CNN town hall, events that for a normal candidate would require zero prep time in a hotel conference room. Then again, this is the same woman whose staff had to hold a mock dinner to prepare her for dinner with Washington journalists and newsmakers. Axios reported Harris aides even considered including wine in the mock prep so Harris could practice with
I
a
don't
glass
think
or two.
she needs any wine at all.
I don't
In
even
fact,
remember which
I
one
think
it was.
She needs a breathalyzer.
It's just like one of the interviews I watched. It did. It looked like she was. She
And
had
then my
had a glass
question
or
is,
two.
is she gonna? Like,
Maybe that's why she
glasses
needs to
of wine are going to be
practice.
poured all over the place because she's.
Where is she from? She's from California, isn't she?
I don't
She's from a
even
middle
know.
class family.
Well, 'cause-
She worked at McDonald's, don't you know?
Well, that's the other thing that my confused.
No proof. She's never actually worked at McDonald's.
Nope.
McDonald's
No proof.
Oh my gosh. Well,
I worked at McDonald's, and I will admit I didn't last a week because social life was more important to me than flipping burgers and taking people's money.
well, my same confused client keeps saying that she's from Mexico, and I'm like, no, I don't think she is. She was raised in Canada.
Born in California.
Now, was
raised
she
in
from
Canada.
Baja, California? Because some people think Baja. Okay.
But yeah, she was telling me. Well, I thought she was black, and the lady was like, "Well, she's half Mexican and half black, but she's from Mexico."
No, because I'm pretty sure she said she was Indian. So that's
Well,
again chameleon.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I
whatever
just
she
thought-
wants to
I
be.
just thought that. I don't
Yeah.
Indiana,
Jamaican,
Indian,
okay.
and Jamaican.
So not Mexican at all. Then.
No, not Mexican.
So okay, my lady was confused about that. Okay.
But in her defense, Kamala has said a lot of things.
Yes.
Well,
So
How
they
was
were.
she
The
raised in
article was talking
Canada?
about though how Trump's more personable.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So her staff is doing like these training sessions with her then, and
Basically,
then what
yeah.
else is going on?
Yeah, it's sunny. It's what's more, Harris seems to be a permanent resident of the uncanny valley. She does a mildly credible job of appearing warm and human, but only just. Her interactions always reek of the staged and the manipulated. Every move is calculated and transparently so. She does look very scripted when she's on a script. Otherwise, she looks kind of drunk.
Breathalyzers.
12-time Best Actress nominee Katharine Hepburn once reportedly described Meryl Streep's acting as too mechanical. Click, 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 she reportedly told biographer Scott Berg, referring to the wheels turning inside Streep's head. That's Kamala Harris with actual real human beings, and it shows. Which is why the media have gone apoplectic? Apoplectic? I don't know how to say that word.
apocalyptic.
No, not
No?
quite. Apoplectic. That's a big word. I don't know that one. Anyways, but they've gone, I think, a little crazy about Trump's McDonald's visit. Trump's critics pointed out that the McDonald's was actually formally closed for his visit and claimed that the event was staged. A peculiar critique, given that Trump has been the victim of 2 assassination attempts, and presidential campaigns require places of business to be secured before candidates enter.
I mean that seemed pretty easy. Someone to just come up in their car and just shoot him through the window.
I mean, they locked the door so people couldn't enter the store. They didn't stop them from going through the drive-through.
Yeah.
They
You know,
have to, like,
but it was
stop each
for.
car and like check them, make sure they didn't have. A
I don't think so.
I don't know. I didn't get
I
that
mean-
deep into it, but
But I mean,
there's got to be some safety measures.
Yeah, I mean,
like-
he's in a building. He's already had 2 assassination attempts. So, okay, they closed the store for a couple hours, locked the doors. People were still able to go through the drive-through.
yeah, he was still serving people, obviously.
I mean, yeah. So,
Well, I was really surprised that McDonald's let him do that. Was that like a family-owned one?
It
or-
was a franchise, and it's funny because the critics, it wasn't working to criticize Trump, so they attacked the local franchise for a health record from years ago.
yeah.
Like, the desperation comes from an obvious place. This was a Trump win. And it was a Trump win because Trump wasn't pretending. He didn't don jeans and a t-shirt in order to cosplay as one of the boys, Tim Walz style. Instead, he showed up in his traditional suit, put on an apron, and started handing out fries and chit-chatting with customers.
yeah, I mean, you figure he's wearing his and because he's got money, I mean, I'm sure his
hundreds of dollars suit.
I'm sure his suit was probably a good couple $1,000s.
It's
But
very
he took
possible.
off his jacket. He had a long sleeve shirt on.
Yep.
He had his nice shoes on, and he's back there on a greasy. And anybody who's ever worked in a fast food restaurant,
Yep. He got dirty.
He's back there with the fryers. I've seen several TikTok or Instagram videos and stuff, and he's back there. He's conversing with the people that worked at McDonald's. He's dropping the fries. He picks them up. He's shaking this. He's in a long sleeve shirt. This wasn't a $30 shirt from Meyer. This is probably a very nice, shirt that's probably even has his initials on the cuffs or something, and he's, he doesn't even roll his sleeves up. He's got this long, and he's doing the fries, there's, and he's shaking the grease off, and he's serving people through the drive-thru, and he's telling them, it's on me, and he's talking to different, and it's whoever drives through the drive-thru. I mean, it didn't matter, and people were like, it's President, Trump, and they're talking to him, and it's everyday people. It's you, me,
No, I've worked a drive-through before.
But
any kind of person will come to the drive-through.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, yes.
here's Trump. He's talking to him, he's conversing, and he didn't fake it. He didn't put on a pair of blue jeans. He was in his suit, his loafers or whatever he's wearing.
He was him.
And he's on this greasy floor and greasy French fries, taking them out of the fryer and, serving the people and talking to them. And
So you think you went to McDonald's because Kamala said that she worked at
Oh,
McDonald's?
most definitely. It was definitely a political stunt. And you know what?
I
That
loved
happens. It happens all the time. Like, why are people throwing such a hissy fit over it when people do political stunts all the time? Like, I just...
But I mean, I loved it. I mean, when I saw the videos, and he was very cordial to the workers there. He, because sometimes we look at people who work in fast food as being uneducated. They can't do anything better than that, whatever, but here we pay, we go and we get the Big Mac and stuff. But,
Chicken nuggets for me.
yeah. But, a lot of people think that people who work in fast food or the restaurant industry are, they don't have an education. They're dumb. They will never succeed in life or whatever. But he walked in and he treated those people
Like people?
like people. He didn't go, oh, you're a McDonald's worker and I'm a billionaire or a millionaire or whatever, and I'm so much better than you. He got back there in his dress shoes, his suit and everything else, and he's talking to him and he's doing what they do on a daily basis. He didn't put himself on a pedestal and just go, here, let me watch you, what are you doing over there? He didn't stand 20 foot away and go, oh, so what are you doing with those French fries? Yeah. So, okay. He got in there and he's doing what this person does on a daily basis or how, whatever hours they work,
Right.
and he didn't treat them like low man on the totem pole. He treated them like we all want to be treated.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, Trump is not my favorite politician. He's not. I don't like his mouth.
Yeah.
When it comes to when he gets upset or whatever against opponents. But when he has these types of moments, it's like, oh, okay. That, if he could stay like this,
But see,
then I'd be a lot happier with him.
So I have a question for you then. Okay, so you like him when he's being subtle. Okay, right?
When he's being polite and nice and
But the thing is,
polite
though,
is the problem.
and being somebody who would, as some people would call me, as being extreme. He does things, in my opinion, to get a rise out of people. He wants that reaction.
Yeah, see,
And
I'm
that's the
crazy
thing.
about people like that, especially.
But here's the deal. Why not?
Especially when it affects an entire nation. When it is affecting your military has to change their daily plans because of something you put on Twitter, that's too much.
Yeah.
What did he have to what did the military have to change?
They had to change their plans for day-to-day stuff.
In what capacity?
Like when they were still over in the Middle East, like, oh, he said this, so we got to watch out for this group of people now.
Okay.
Like,
now under
they
Trump,
already had plans for missions or whatever.
Okay,
We
now-
can't do that now.
Okay, here's the deal.
Well, he was
When
saying
you
what they
are
were allowed
elected
to do.
president, the president of this country, right now it's Biden, okay? That is the chief and
yeah,
commander.
Yeah, I hate that.
They are the head honcho. They are the boss of the military. So
See, I have my opinions on that too. So
here's the deal. Well, here's the deal. We live in a democracy. We are not England. We're not Russia. We're not China. We're not South Korea. We're not North Korea. We are the United States of America. We elect a president. When we elect that president, regardless of what party they are from, they are chief and commander. Mm-hmm. So when the president says something, the military, if he tells them to do something, that is their job to...
No, it's not that he was telling the military to change it. It's because he said something else, totally unrelated, but was super offensive to the other side.
But here's
and
the
that's
deal.
why it got
Offensive
changed.
how? Somebody's feelings got hurt? Because here's the deal. When we go into the polling place, or when you go into work, or you go into a place of worship, or whatever you're doing, you got to check your emotions at the door. You remove your feelings, you remove your emotions. So when we elect somebody, we need to put our feelings and our emotions aside.
I'm not talking about our feelings. I'm talking about the people he
ca-
offended, like the Islamic extremists.
Who cares what they
the
think?
other extreme.
Those
Who cares what they think? The people
those
who are in that country fighting them.
Those
That's
people-
who cares what they think.
Those people,
their families.
those
like,
people want us dead.
Okay, yeah, and that's
If those people come into this country, you and I would not be able to sit here and have this conversation. You know why? Because we would be sitting at home and our husbands would be telling us, you get up and you go do those dishes. And if we don't get up and go do those dishes, we're going to be beat to death. We're going to be covered in head to toe. We're not going to be able to wear a piece of jewelry. We're not going to have a say. We're not going to be able to drive or anything else.
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be beheaded because I'm a Christian and not
You will
ashamed
be
of it.
you will be put to death. If you go in and you start going to these, you go and study Islam, and you see how these women are treated in these countries wearing these burqas and everything else, they have no rights. They have nothing. Everything that is afforded to them is told what they can do and not do by their husbands, their brothers, their fathers, the male clergy. They are nothing but a piece of trash in those men's eyes. So I could care less that he offended some Islamic person who wants me to wear a burqa and not have a say. I wasn't born in that country. I was born in this country. I could care less that he offended some Islamic extremists in some other country. My concern in the Middle East is for God's people, and that's the people of Israel. I could care less about Iran, and I could care less about Iraq. As far as I'm concerned, that could be a big cat litter box, in my opinion. Somebody needs to go in and hit the button, boom, and we're going to solve our problems right here and now. When under Trump, we didn't have Hamas. We didn't have October 7th under Trump. We didn't have people being kidnapped and murdered and raped and babies being murdered and women being murdered and everything else. And we wouldn't have an American citizen that's being held by Hamas under Trump. Because when he was president, we didn't have these problems. And now we have a family in New Jersey who is wondering whether or not their son is going to come home or not. So I could care less about Hamas. I could care less about Islam. And if you want my address, I'll give it to you. Because I've got something for you. This country was founded on principles of freedom. Freedom for all.
I agree.
And
I
so
think
I
we're
could
going to be
care-
in a.
so-
I think
so
we're
the thing
not
is,
going to get
though-
to an agreement right now
No,
on
we're
this
not.
because we're high on emotions. So we're just going to calm
Because
down.
The thing is, though, our country, when we elect a president, the president is over the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, or whatever. You know, there are three branches of government. We have the legislative, the Supreme Court, and the president. The president is the chief and commander. So whatever he says, Who cares what the military has to do? Their job is to follow orders. They are paid not to think.
That doesn't make a good leader. That's what I'm saying. That does not make a good leader. If that is how you control, that's not how you rein his businesses. Like, no. No. So, like I said, we're just not going to agree on this right now, and that's totally fine because this show is not a show that we all have to agree on.
No.
So,
well, I just want to say that if that were to happen and we had Islamic takeover and we were under Sharia law, that doesn't mean that our own husbands we already have to treat us any different.
They will have to submit or they will be murdered.
They don't have to beat their own wives in our own house.
If we were under that type of that type of lifestyle, those our husbands, they may not do it, but they have the right to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying our husbands are going to do it, but they have the right to do it under Islamic law.
Yeah.
Because you are not who you are right now. You are nothing but a piece of meat and a piece of property who is to be submissive. You have no opinion. You have no voice. You have nothing. You're not allowed to leave your home unless you're with a man. You're not allowed to wear any kind of jewelry that makes any kind of noise. Your shoes aren't to make a noise. You're to be covered from head to toe. You're not to wear perfume. You're not to wear this, that, and the other.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the women here, when they talk about the abortion being more limited, talk about how they don't have any rights, and it's just ridiculous to me.
It is.
That's nothing.
And see, I don't call abortion reproductive rights.
Well, yeah, no, I'm saying that's what say, and it's like they have no idea what they're talking about. I mean, I know people from Saudi Arabia, you know, and I mean they're fine, the ones that I know, but you know, Saudi Arabia has the highest rape incidents.
Yes,
you know, and people try to say, oh, you know, it's based on what you're wearing. It's like, do you see what they wear in Saudi Arabia, where they are covered completely?
But that's the lifestyle there, and you can't.
It's about the value of the life
and
the
women.
It's about the value that you
and the
place
thing is, though, if a woman
women.
says she was raped, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, the women may, and if you do have a family male member that cares, they may, but in all actuality, the government could care less over there. I mean, they're just like, you were raped, big deal, get over it. You know, it's your fault. You know, you're a woman, you did something. You know. I mean, I forgot what country it is over there. Women, they're allowed to own a car, but they're not allowed to drive.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
probably. Yeah, they can't
and I can't remember which country that is. But
or did they just change it to where they can drive?
There's been a lot of changes in the most recent years, but there's a lot of work still to be done for sure. I forgot which country it is, but there was a country that in the 1960s and 70s, you know, the women were allowed to dress like we were or whatever, and then next thing you know, Islam moved in, and now the women are not allowed to do things or whatever, and they were, you know, so.
Okay, let me say something else to the women, okay? If the man that you are with, the only thing stopping him from beating you is that we're not under Sharia law, you should go ahead and leave him now.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead and leave him now if that's the only thing
But,
stopping him.
But I'm just saying, though, over there, if that lifestyle was in this country, you don't leave.
Right.
That you don't have that option under that type of
right. That's why I'm saying go ahead and do it now.
Quote unquote religion. You don't have that option, you know, and that's the thing.
Well, there's even some Christian denominations that feel that way.
Oh yeah.
Oh no. You can't leave. Oh no, just go to counseling. Oh no.
Well, and being someone who has been divorced and separated when my husband died and now remarried, the Bible's clear about marriage and being somebody who wasn't a Christian and stuff. You know, I've divorced and, you know, I've had to take that to God and everything. Yeah. But, you know, we are to be not have premarital sex. You're to save yourself for marriage, and then you are to work on your marriage. And when you have problems in your marriage, you're supposed to take it to your elders. You are supposed to take it to your deacons or whatever, and have them speak to your spouse and try to work that out. There's Christian counseling, that can help with stuff. And there are times where there are going to be instances that a marriage can't be saved. But you are supposed to full-heartedly try to save your marriage based on biblical principles. Yeah. and during Jesus' time, though, women were considered property. And that's, so, if a man was beating his wife, there wasn't really a place for her to go to tell anybody.
Yeah, that's why Christianity was so radical to them, because it talked about husbands love your wife as Christ loved the church.
Yes.
Well, and that's why that's why it was such a big deal that it was the women who came and said that he was risen.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Who's going to believe
and he used women in his ministry. I mean, he first appeared to a woman, and then you have the woman at the well, and the woman who had the bleeding problem.
Women in the upper room.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
And that's why
last year.
You talk about there's Martha and Mary. Jesus used those women in the ministry, and he didn't treat women and children as second-class citizens. He treated them like everybody else. And so I understand why, and I have no problem with women not being in the pulpit. I don't believe they should be, but I believe there is a place for women in ministry.
Well, that's why we're here today.
Yeah. And so I'm sorry I got a little emotional there. So I apologize. I apologize, Josh.
There's some strong feelings. It's something that maybe
might help some ratings. Woohoo!
We were scared of
that crazy woman on there.
That's what we got to say. Comment. What are your thoughts on that specific thing about
But we
leaders and what they say and how that affects other things.
But they but Jesus used women and things and so he didn't treat anybody any differently. He came to save all, man, woman, child, and, God, created, Adam in his image. And then, he took a rib from Adam to create a helper for Adam. And, people get bit out of shape. Oh, women are submissive and stuff. We're not, excuse me. We're supposed to be a helper to our husbands and stuff.
Oh,
so
that word, helper, that's in the Hebrew. What that word, a better translation is a military aid. Mm-hmm. It's that level of help.
If you think about biblical times, very rarely did women actually work outside the home per se. It was, Proverbs, or is it Proverbs 31, the wife?
Yeah, Proverbs 31
woman. My brain's...
That's the ideal woman.
She's supposed to, be... run the household and run it in a manner that's godly and be frugal with the money and make sure it's being spent properly and do what's needed to keep the household running, because when we keep our households running and our husbands can come home from work, if you are lucky enough to stay home, and they can come home from work and your home is your refuge from the world. That's where you come to escape, the bad things.
I was right. It's Ezer, E-Z-E-R. And it means to rescue, to save, to be strong, to defend, to protect, to surround, to cherish. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot more than just, I'm just going to help you around the house. It's
and that's why you kind of
No, it's important to me that women know that.
Jesus is king, but in your household, you have your king and your queen, and if you know anything about chess, you're
daddy was a chess champion.
So, you have, and your queen is supposed to protect your king, and your king's supposed to protect your queen. So,
king is just supposed to not get killed. That's all.
Yep. So many good things.
Yep. So I'm sorry I got a little emotional there. So I apologize. So I'm passionate about my politics. Passionate about Trump. I'll admit that. I'm a a mega girl. I'm extremist.
All right. Well,
So-
this
I
is.
love my MAGA pride.
Yep, love your MAGA fries.
I can't.
I was gonna send this
I,
video.
I would be so
So
tickled.
funny.
I mean, I don't eat McDonald's a whole lot, but if I was going to McDonald's and pulled up in my truck and there was Trump, I'd be going, oh my gosh, and just they'd be going, okay, you need to move along. Your fries are getting cold. I'd be going, I don't care about the fries anymore. It's Trump, But
Yeah, here I was gonna send this video to my family and be like, "Here, watch this thing about my dad." And then here I have this extremist lady with me.
Hey, we had some good discussions about your dad and about death and
yeah, and see, we have things
and
in common
life
because
and-
my father was a truck driver.
Yeah.
And grew up in a farm, and then went in the military, drove a truck in the military, and then got out of the military and drove a truck for a couple of different things, and then he went to work for a company, and he had over, I believe, 6 million miles accident free.
Oh wow,
Wow.
6 million.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness.
My father drove a truck for 25 plus years or so,
cool.
and so he drove from here to Buffalo, New York, places in New York, here to Michigan, Illinois, all kinds of different places. So,
that's a lot of different terrain to be driving into.
And he worked for a company. He wasn't an owner operator, but so I always take pride in being a truck driver's daughter.
Well,
So
All right. Did we get everything?
I think we got everything. I hope we got everything.
You gonna close
This
with
has
some
been
prayer?
such a. I was about to say, yeah. Do you want
know.
to close with some prayer and then we'll sign out?
Yes. I feel like I had something else I thought of, and now I forgot what it was. I'll probably think of it as soon as we turn off the camera.
It's usually how it goes.
She's still stuck on that extremist. Sarah's probably going, I'm going to have a conversation with Josh.
I already
So-
knew it because we've already had some of these conversations.
Josh is going to be going, I can't invite her back. She gets a little emotional. So,
All right, let's
Okay,
pray.
Let's be reverent here to pray. Okay, Father God, I thank you again for this opportunity that I was able to share these stories of my dad. And God, I just thank you for my dad and for all the times that you saved his life and for all the lessons that he has taught me and how that has affected me and my relationships and everything with my life now, God. And I just want to give you the glory for all those miracles that you have performed. God, and we thank you for our friends here. God, I thank you that we can get along and discuss these things. And I pray that we can continue to do that and that we'll just bless all this. And in Jesus' name, amen.
All
Amen.
right, that was our message bringer, Claire Reed. Thank you so much again.
Thanks.
And then the one next to her, Miss Katrina Simpson, the very fiery, passionate, but a good lady over here.
thank you.
Katrina Simpson, thank
Again,
you
I
for coming.
apologize
and-
for getting too passionate.
it's forgiven. It's
So.
okay. We like passion. It's good.
Sometimes I get a little too passionate.
Don't forget to keep liking and subscribing and sharing all the things. Check out revolverbroadcasting.com and the shop and everything. But for now, this has been your host, Sarah Metcalf Allen, saying bye.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're